The work the SAG Foundation is doing is enormously important. From the up-and-coming actors to the veterans like myself, the foundation is here to help all of us.
As fellow artists, we've all been there. It's crucial that we remember where we came from and help out however we can.
For over 25 years, the SAG Foundation has been the industry's best-kept secret, and we're out to change that.
As natural storytellers, it's great that we have the opportunity to give back through the children's literacy programs.
A disaster like Sandy really brings it home with how crucial the SAG Foundation is. Their donation drive helped so many people in need.
The seminars and workshops are crucial. Working together is what makes us better.
The SAG Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies solely on donations to keep these important programs free for everyone.
The SAG Foundation can't do it alone. We need you.
If you need help, ask.
If you can help, give.
We're all in this together.
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 Together, everyone benefits.
Join the cause.
Back now.
Good evening. Oh, there we go. Good evening again. My name is Dennis Baker. I'm the Life Raft Program Director. I want to thank you guys for coming and for viewing on the live stream. That's our new 2013 promo video. Who's the first time has seen that video? Nice. Excellent. We're excited about it. It really shows what we're trying to do here at the SAG Foundation. A couple things for you guys and a couple people for the people in the live stream. We are trying to get the word out in every which way possible. So we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/SAG Foundation. Twitter, twitter.com/SAG Foundation, or you can add us at SAG Foundation. And then also the YouTube page. The YouTube page is probably the most important. It's youtube.com/SAG Foundation. There you can view all of our events that we record, which nowadays is mostly all of them. The conversations, the Q&As to most of the Life Raft programs. This event tonight, if you miss anything, want to rewatch it, as soon as you get home, it will be on the YouTube page. It happens right after the event. It goes there. You can watch it. That's where you can watch the live stream as well as our website. So subscribe, like, follow us, whatever it does for each page, because sometimes we might send out events that way first before the email, because as you all know, once the email goes out, things fill up pretty quickly. So check those things out and follow us that way. As the video states, we are a nonprofit. We do not get your dues or initiation fees. Let me repeat that. We do not get your dues. We do not get your initiation fees. We function on donations and grants. And so surveys are part of those grants, but also the grantors, or however term you want to use it, came back to us and said, a way that we determine if something's working is if the people participating also become owners. So right to your right, the Carolina Director of Communication is holding a nice little box, and that box is a way to give some cash donations. I know not everyone carries cash, so we also have a donate button on the website. Think about it this way. Each seat costs about $16 a seat. We average between 20 and 28 events between CAP, Conversations, and Life Raft. So depending on how much you participate, that's pretty much the best deal in town to get information and to participate in actor-related events. So what we ask of you is, depending on how much you participate, think about how much you can give back, whether it's a couple bucks, whether it's being a sustaining member online, $1, $5, $10 a month, whatever you can do, it is going to help us and potentially also give us a chance to even create more events. We know CAP is hugely popular. Every time people writes on the feedback, more CAP events, more CAP events. Well, the only way we can do CAP events, or even more CAP events, is if we increase our donations and our grants. Does that make sense? So again, another way to think about it this way too is we also are here to help the membership in financial crisis, whether that helps pay for rents, pay some bills. So some of the money you give might be helping the person next to you pay their next month's rents. So if you do need help, call the office, because there's ways and means by which we can help you. But also if you're able to give, please give. Thanks, guys. I'm so excited for this event. We have an amazing panel, very active members in thinking about alternative transportation and living locally. So with that, I'm going to introduce our moderator, Stephen Box. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name's Stephen Box, and I'm a pedestrian. And if that sounds like the beginning of a self-help group, perhaps it is, because today's National Walking Day, and we're celebrating a really simple act. going for a walk, but in many ways it's the first step to helping yourself, to better health, to connecting with your neighbors, to discovering your neighborhood, to creating community, changing the world. And you're going to meet some folks tonight that have taken the simple act of going for a walk and they've turned it into an art form. And they've done some really exciting things, and it all starts with going for a walk, more specifically walking in LA. And so tonight we're here as the guests of the SAG Foundation, and we're enjoying this event, which is part of the Life Raft series, which covers issues that are essential to your survival. Well, actually, your triumphant success here in Los Angeles and in the industry and in your lives. And so we should thank Dennis Baker, the gentleman who's responsible for this event. He's the SAG Foundation's Life Raft Program Director. There he is. Thank you, Dennis. And this is that moment where we traditionally ask you to take out your cell phones and turn them off. But instead, if you'd take them out and get ready to start tweeting, it would be awesome if you could share this with your network. Tonight, the hashtag is Walking in LA. People around the country are watching it because, remember, it's a national holiday. And if you'd like to follow Dennis, his Twitter handle is Dennis Baker, and the SAG Foundation is at SAG Foundation. If you have any questions tonight, you can also tweet using the hashtag SAGF for the SAG Foundation, and we'll get those questions. But if you don't have a Twitter account, you can email your questions to livestream@sagfoundation.org. For those purists in the room, there's pencil and paper, perhaps with instructions on how to use it, I don't know. But, you know, all of this goes to show we've come a long way. When I moved to Hollywood many, many years ago, I was told that the keys to success were a dependable car, and a Thomas guide that had all the pages, including the good ones, and a pager. Those days are long gone. And so my car is gone also, and I've since then become a bike activist and a community activist, and the pager's long gone. I now have a cell phone that has replaced the Thomas guide. And last night when I was walking home, it was way late, and it was just sort of a mass transit fiasco, and I missed a bus and got stranded and got home late. And I didn't get to put Sydney, our little 16-month-old, to bed, but I was able to hold the iPhone, you know, and do the FaceTime and walk down the street. So that's kind of a long way from holding the pager upside down to send those secret signals to each other. Remember those days? You do, huh? You probably still have a pager, eh? No? But times have changed a great deal, and especially here in Los Angeles, and one of the reasons, or many of the reasons that those changes have come about as far as communication, transportation, entertainment, culture, is because of the folks that are sitting to my left on stage here. And each one in their own way has played a significant role in shaking up the status quo. And in many ways, it was doing something so simple as, I don't know, going for a walk, riding a bicycle, taking the bus, and demonstrating once and for all that you can survive without the Thomas guide, the pager, and a car. So without any further ado, I'd like to just introduce the panelists to my left, and they'll chat about who they are, and then we'll start doing some questions. So thanks very much for joining us this evening at the Walking in LA. So to my left is Enci Box, my wife, and Ed Begley Jr., Alissa Walker, sorry, Cathy Reinking, and Cindy Marie Jenkins. And so why don't we start with Cindy, if you just tell us who you are and a little bit about your unique experience here in LA.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm a storyteller and outreach nerd, and I live in Atwater Village, and basically started combining online with offline outreach, and that entails a lot of walking.
Excellent.
Like I said, I'm Cathy Reinking, and I've been a working casting director in Hollywood since 1994. I'm a member of Casting Society of America. I was born in Hollywood, so I'm a native Angelino. And I gave up my car November of 2011 and haven't looked back. So I will be discussing that.
Hi, my name's Alissa Walker. Yes, that is my real name. I have to say that at a pedestrian event. I get that a lot. I'm a writer. I live in Silver Lake. I gave up my car 6 years ago. I don't know what the year is, but and have really enjoyed also telling stories through many publications that I write for about walking, biking, and taking transit, including writing about Ed's house a few years ago for Dwell, which was super exciting. I also, just to plug it, I wrote an article in the most recent Los Angeles magazine about how you can save money by getting rid of your car. So if you want to go check that out, it's on newsstands now, the Affording LA issue. And in addition to writing, I'm also on the steering committee for a new group called Los Angeles Walks, which is the only pedestrian advocacy organization that I know of that exclusively focuses on making the experience safe, accessible, and fun for walkers in Los Angeles. So feel free to ask me any questions about those things. Thanks.
I'm Ed Begley, and I was born in Hollywood, California myself.
Really?
Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital.
Me too. Are you kidding?
There you go. Many, many years before. They didn't have anesthesia when I was born there. I was born in 1949 at Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital, and I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, where many of the studios were, because my father was an actor, of course, junior, Ed Begley Jr., wonderful Academy Award-winning actor, my dad. And thank you. And I got into SAG in 1967 because I wanted to do what my dad did, and I got around in those early days without a car, and I've kind of gone back to the future. Now though I have an electric car, I use occasionally to go out with the wife to events and what have you, or to pick up a week's worth of groceries. I don't use it much. It's way down the list of my transportation hierarchy. Number one is walking, because I quite deliberately moved to Studio City because it is a livable community, like Santa Monica, like Silver Lake, like Crenshaw District, like many other places where you could walk to stores or restaurants and shops. And so that's what I deliberately did. Walking's number one. My bike is number two, which is how I got here tonight from Laurel and Ventura. I rode my bike here. Number three is public transportation, my well-worn bus pass, which I use a lot. All right, very good. And why don't you have the senior pass? I'm coming up. I got one more year. I'm 63. Can you get it at 63? That's a question. 62. 62. I'm learning. Okay. How much is it a month, may I ask?
Well, I live in West Hollywood, and you can get it for $8.
Well, this is very good. I'm going to check into that. Thank you. You may have saved me some money. You might have saved me some dough. But yeah, walking, riding a bike, public transportation. The electric car is rarely used. That's fourth on my transportation list, and it's a good way to get around. It keeps me in shape and keeps me alert, and I get to see and feel everything about LA. I love walking, I love riding my bike, and I even enjoy public transportation. I just did a play at the Taper, did this David Mamet play at the Taper, and all the weeks of rehearsal and all the performance, I didn't take my car once. I took the subway down there every day for rehearsal and performance, and I got to learn my lines in the subway going there and coming home, and that's why I was off book the first day of rehearsal. So it's a good way to get around. Thank you.
My name is Enci Box. I'm an actress and a writer, and I only go as Enci, as an actor, just one name. And I've been car-free, or gave up my car in 2006, I believe, around that time, and became a bike activist with my husband as we were run off the road by bus drivers many, many times. And we did become bike activists, and my husband co-wrote with some guys the Cyclist Bill of Rights. And a working actress. I go on sets, theater productions, everything. I travel on my bike. And I think Ed already summed up why you should, with an $8 senior pass, you have to get out of your car. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with you tonight. Thank you for being here.
Excellent. You know, as in any hero's journey, there's that moment when, that defining moment, that catalyst for action. So perhaps you could, we'll start with Cathy this time. Tell us about that moment when, I don't know, something happened and you got rid of the car, something happened and you went for a walk, something happened and you, just in looking back, it's that moment, and then was there any repercussions? Did people look at you and say, I mean, this is the city that gives advice all the time, am I right? did you get lots of advice from folks telling you you've taken the wrong path?
Oh, yeah. People look at you like you're nuts. Are you kidding? I mean, you're like, what originally happened was I lived in Colorado like for 5 years, and during that period I gave up my car, and I felt kind of panicked right away because I thought my independence is gone now. But I was sick of paying for gasoline and maintenance, and I didn't, I won't go into the whole war thing, but I just didn't want to buy gas anymore. So anyway, at first I was not really excited. I was trepidatious. But after going many months, then I realized, oh my God, I'm free, actually. So then I came back to LA, and somebody actually gave me a car when I got here. And they told me, they said, this car is in very bad shape. It will only last a year, and when it dies, don't put any money into it. Just let it go. So sure enough, it lasted a year, almost to the day. And when that died, I just said, that's it. I am going whole hog. And so, does that answer your question? Okay.
And Alissa, you reckon there's a price tag to that moment of freedom?
Well, I hadn't calculated it in any way. I mostly just got rid of my car for kind of the same reason. I just didn't use it that much, and I wanted to feel more free. I also lived by the Hollywood Bowl, and you couldn't actually drive anywhere for most of the summer because everyone was trying to get up the Highland to go to the Hollywood Bowl. So I kind of gave it up as a game. I thought it would be more fun to try something different, just like what you're saying. It's actually a lot better way to see the city. And for the article that I wrote for LA Magazine, I started to calculate how much you actually save, and I think this is actually a conservative number. I figured out that I saved about $10,000 a year by not having a car, and that's a lot of money. I mean, for me, I feel like I have completely not only saved the money, but I changed the way that I live my life in general, because you live your life a little bit closer to the ground, and you realize all the other things that you don't maybe need as much when you don't have a car to cart those things home from the store that you didn't actually need to buy. That actually really helps put things into perspective. So it was a complete life shift for me, but you're right, I hadn't thought about it till I wrote that article. I'm sure you could calculate it yourself.
I actually, on average, and I do cheat, I do rent a car occasionally if I have to do something on a weekend, and I calculated for the whole year, and it was $167 average a month that I spent on transportation, and that was everything. So.
Excellent. Ed, how about you? Sometime long ago, you took that path and were that guy on the stage.
1970, I bought my first electric car, because at that time it was the first Earth Day, and I started recycling, I started composting, became a vegetarian, doing all these green things, and I went, but there's smog in LA in 1970, very bad smog in 1970. So I said, I'm part of it. I'm making that smog with this car that I had before that, a Mustang, whatever I had. I got rid of it, and I bought an electric car, and I figured I'm doing my small part to clean it up. And now I'm not taking any credit for it. This happened by people other than me, but because of all the things we did from 1970, we have 4 times the cars in LA. That's not a good thing, it just is. Right. Since 1970, you have millions more people, yet we have a fraction of the smog, because we cleaned things up. But having said all that, the car is the last thing that I want. And the only reason I have a car at all is because it's an electric car that I charge on my solar panels, So that's my cheat, is that I have an electric car that's not even getting coal-fired, power from somewhere, nuclear power from somewhere. So I did it for green reasons, though, to really answer your question. I did it because I wanted to do my part to protect the environment. The first Earth Day happened, and I went, I'm going to do something to honor my dad, because he was this green guy that never called himself an environmentalist. He died within a few days of the first Earth Day. My dad did. And so he just turned off the lights and turned off the water and saved string and saved tinfoil. And he was a conservative that liked to conserve. And he was a son of Irish immigrants, and he had lived through the Great Depression. So I did all this stuff to honor him. And lo and behold, I realized right away I was saving a lot of money. It was cheaper in 1970 to plug that electric car in than it was to go the same amount of miles in that car I owned before. All of it was cheaper. So I stayed with all this green stuff, and now, between the SAG retirement and all this green stuff, I'm pretty comfortable now. It's a good setup that we have here.
Enci, how about you? What was that defining moment, that moment when you looked at the cars and turned away?
Well, we've been riding bikes for a long time, and started using the car less and less often. And one day, I did an errand just around the corner, and stupid me, thinking I should have just taken my bike, but my car got in an accident, in a collision, and a guy pulled in front of me, and it totaled, and it was a total relief for me. I was so relieved. I said, great, the car is gone. I don't have to worry about it. And it really just changed my life because, not just because it's healthier, but mentally, the car was so frustrating to be in the car, being stuck in traffic. And even when I rented a car or rent a car or drive now and I see cyclists pass me, I feel like, oh God, I should be on the bicycle. I would be so much faster and I'm tired all the time if I'm in the car. And I learned that because in a car, you're always in a passive position and you're inhaling the exhaust from other cars in front of you. Whereas you're biking or you're walking, you are on the side or you're at a higher end. You're also exhaling, you're inhaling but also exhaling the oxygen. So your body is at a different pace and a different, just functions differently when you're riding, when you're using your body. So that's why I was always sluggish being in a car, coming back from an audition. And then the last audition I've done, this was before I became completely car-free. I had an audition on the West Side for some commercial in the car, and it took me 2 hours to get back from the West Side to Hollywood. And I said, never again. And since then, I got on my bike and rode my bike to any and every audition, regardless of how far it was. Sometimes I put it on the bus. But I always showed up refreshed. I never had to worry about the parking meter or being towed or any of that. And I always have a healthy glow because of riding my bike, so it helps.
So, look, quick story. Enci's kind of competitive, and a friend of hers, once we kind of got a reputation as the bike activist, sent her an article about a Swedish woman that rode her bicycle to the hospital and delivered the baby. And so Enci was pregnant at the time, and so Enci's like, well, you know, and she'd been riding all the way. And up until 8 months, I said, okay, well, we'll do a test run to the hospital. It's Cedars-Sinai from Hollywood. And I was a wreck. I mean, because Enci's riding and she's comfortable, and the baby actually apparently liked the motion and was, you know, it was more peaceful that night. But it was just, you know, that through Beverly, I was the wreck. And I thought, I can't do it. So we didn't do it. But she rode all the way until the 8th month of her pregnancy because of this competitive spirit. I had to put my foot down. So Cindy, that defining moment, and did it impact choices that you made, like where you live and where you work?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Boston, so I grew up on the T, and even when I could when I could have gotten my license, I didn't. It just didn't occur to me because I liked the bus, and even though I took it like an hour and a half to school. And then I moved to New York. So I actually learned, I got my license, didn't necessarily learn how to drive, got my license so I could move to LA, and got it within 2 weeks, and then was on the road the next day with a friend to move here. And I'm pretty sure I got into an accident within 2 weeks of living here, like on my way to my new, you know, temp job or whatever. So, I too. Yeah, and every time I rent, it's kind of a crapshoot as to whether or not I'll get in an accident. But that's the thing, is I was so used to that time reading. I was so used to that time, and so it had gotten to the point about 4 years ago when. I just started going freelance, so that was useful instead of going to NoHo or driving around doing arts ed everywhere around the city. And my car, it was a good little station wagon, and it was just trying so hard that, you know, I had to fill it up with water every day. Every time I drove it, I had to fill it up and like just hope that I would make it. And it didn't work. I think we put about $1,200 of work into it, and it still didn't work. And I was like, you know what? That would be a great tax write-off, and I'm going to just bus it. And my husband was, you know, hoping, you know, is that okay? Because he has a truck that's a stick shift, and I enjoy my marriage enough that I don't want to try to drive that yet. Just knowing how much it cost my boyfriend at the time I was learning how to drive, how to do it. So it was such a stress relief. And then I had just moved to Atwater Village. I had just become involved in the community, and I have a wonderful dog, and it just made me, it made me walk more. It made me walk to do errands, you know, as opposed to driving and trying to find parking that's about halfway between where I live and the store, you know. There's a great farmer's market in Atwater Village, and trying to park around that time is ridiculous. So it's so nice to just really have to contain my errands. And I think probably on top of that $10,000, just the amount of stuff I don't need that I would just go buy. I'm thinking about Office Depot and Staples specifically. I would just go out and buy things, and I've saved so much from that alone. Never mind, you know, just the car.
By the way, Cindy isn't joking when she says she's a bad driver, because she picked me up. She gave me rides many times for when I was rehearsing with her. This is Enci in my car. And I always said, I don't want to be on a bike in front of her when she's driving a car. So I'm glad she's car-free.
We all insisted.
AAA labeled me a good driver, and I was like, okay.
You know, actors and writers and casting directors, producers, directors, this is a city where people have labels, many labels. And sometimes we don't like labels. At other times we like them. We claim them. And the folks that walk and ride bikes and take mass transit are many things. They're rebels, they're pedestrians, they're new urbanists, they're trendsetters. There's something wrong with them. Did you lose your job?
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
But Alissa, maybe you can start us off with, is there a label that you like, and is there an opportunity to express yourself? Is it simply going for a walk, or is it an opportunity to create, communicate, explore? What is it that drives you? What's this energy, and what's the label that you'd like?
Well, my favorite thing talking about when they ask you first if you lost your job, or if you need help, or if someone stole your car or something. But the best is when, you know, we go on these fun group walks like the Big Parade or the Great Los Angeles Walk, and people stop in their cars and they pull up and they're like, "What are you walking for?" And they mean, like, I think, are we walking for a charity? But we just like to say we're walking for walking. Like we don't have to walk for anything, which is kind of the most natural response. But I do think that, I think a lot of people think of it as, I go for walks. I walk around the Silver Lake Reservoir. I walk Runyon Canyon, things like that. I think the shift that that's great. Everyone should do that, of course. But the shift that I kind of accepted was that I was going to use it as my form of transportation. And I think the biggest role that I see myself having as a writer and as storyteller, as a performer, as whatever, is to tell a story that is positive and negative. You know, you can also talk about how the bus never picked you up, or, you know, you're FaceTiming with your kid running through the streets because you couldn't get home. But really communicating that, and I think social media is such an amazing tool for that. I happened to walk here today from downtown LA along Wilshire 6 miles, not just to show off for National Walking Day. I had a radio project to do, but I was Instagramming the entire way, because I think it's really important just to show through Twitter or Facebook or whatever, posting stories that lets people know that it just is possible. I'm not passing judgment on you for walking or not walking. I just want to show you that it can be done, and that it's fun and it's interesting, and I run into random and very weird people on the streets, and that's an amazing and different part of LA that I don't think a lot of people get to see. So for me, being a storyteller in that way is super important, and I want people to see the good and the bad, and think of walking as not just like something I do with my dog when I get home from work, but as a way to maybe get to work.
So Ed, you've kind of turned your walking, and then was a golf cart. I don't remember. I don't remember what the gateway step for you was, but you've turned it into a huge expression of environmentalism, also an economic expression, an art form, It's entertaining? Yes? So how do you define yourself in the context of this lifestyle?
I would define myself as an environmental activist that started in 1970, and then also a guy who's a very thrifty person. You know, when I quickly saw that all this green stuff I was doing on a very modest budget, 1970 when I started, I didn't have money for any solar panels or anything like that, or a fancy electric car. The electric car I bought was $950. When I say car, I'm being quite grand. We're talking about a golf cart with a windshield wiper and a horn. It was a tailor-done electric car. Look it up on the internet. They still make them today. They're really for industrial complexes or college campuses for a cleaning crew to go around and, you know, it was not a fast car. I actually took an actress on a date, the wonderful actress, my dear friend Cindy Williams. I took her on a date in that electric car. She did not grant me a second date. It was so slow, there was some kid passing us on Hot Wheels giving us a finger. So it was not a fast car. It was not exactly a lady magnet. But at any rate, I stayed with it because I felt I was doing my part to clean up the air, and it was a good way to live. And I quickly also surmised, living as I did in the valley, near a lot of the studios, I always lived near a bus line. I lived what was the old 93 line, if there's anybody old enough to remember that, the one that went down Chandler, and now, you know, it's kind of where the busway goes now, that the orange line. It's kind of mostly that. And then, you know, I take the 91W to get to Century City and what have you, but I took all these buses around, and that's how I got around as an actor. And it was good because I could work on my lines on the way there and back. And then when they got the subway and all this stuff, it got so much easier and more bus lines. It just got, you know, natural gas, cleaner buses and everything. But when actors ask me, they say, hey, you know, I want your advice as an actor. They're not green people at all. They just come up to me in the street or after, you know, some show or something. What's your advice as an actor? I go, where do you live? Said, I wanted to talk about acting. Why are you asking where I live? Where do you live? Well, I got a Midas muffler spot, and I got a good, I think it's going to be picked up another year. I got a place, I'm renting a nice pad up in Porter Ranch. I said, no, you're going to move to NoHo or something. Get yourself an apartment. Keep your expenses low, not just for any green stuff, so that you can then pick and choose and do a play. You don't have to do some project you don't want to do. As an actor, as an artist, keep your expenses low. You know, don't buy the big place before, you know, you can afford, and that's what a lot of this is good for too. You can make decisions as an artist, as a casting director, as an actor, a writer. You can make those choices where you don't have to take something based on commerce. You can take it based on art and creativity. And so my advice to actors when they do ask is, you know, keep your expenses low, live somewhere near other places where you can not have a car, let's say, and you can spend more time acting and less time driving.
Also, you can study other people when you're on the bus. I mean, seriously, like that's
for
writers, actors. It's great
I've got
material.
More characters on the MTA than any place in the world.
I mean, you got to be with you got to be with people. Yeah. You know, you're reflecting people. So that's great.
How about you, Enci? How do you define yourself? Is there a label you like?
Bike activist. I don't know. I had when I was in Hollywood, and there was a theater job also down Hollywood by La Brea, and I always rode to rehearsal and then to the evening performances with my bike. And on Hollywood and Highland, there was somebody, I never knew who, but every time I passed, he was just screaming, "Bike girl, bike girl!" And I don't know who that was, but there was somebody who just always saw me and was cheering me on.
I'm sorry.
And I thought that was just so great because I always arrived in the theater smiling and felt really, but yeah, I think bike girl or bike activist, I like that.
Cool. Cindy, how about you? And did it affect how you're recognized in the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think it mostly was just weird for a lot of people because I've lived here. I've lived more of my life in LA with a car than without. So it was kind of like changing my name when I got married. Like, it was a total shift for me. It was a big shift for my friends. But it really helped, I think, give me the time to write in a lot of ways or observe people, which I sorely, sorely missed from moving when I moved here. And the only thing that it's sort of taken away is I need to make time to listen to the radio, you know, whereas you have that concentrated time before. But it's been so much fun, like you're saying about social media and just being able to, you know, I ran a workshop on Saturday morning, and my mind was just like crazy and bursting. It was such a good time, and it was the first time I had run a workshop, and I had rented a car for that day, and I didn't have that just relaxing, okay, I'm just walking now. Someone else can, you know, happily drive me from Hollywood to USC. That's great. And I really missed it. Like, I ended up taking a little time after that, before I got in my car, just to sort of clear the air, because it was going to a different place. And I think sort of some of the stories, like even just on the way here, people who don't live in LA were replying to me about taking the bus, or someone from New York was really into it, and it just opens up these conversations that I wouldn't normally have being in a car, especially not, you know, texting or tweeting while I'm in the car. And it allows me, it's often an amazing time to catch up on email. You know, things that I didn't have time to do for whatever reason. But yeah, I think it started to catch on. A lot of my friends know if I invite them to something and it's a free ticket, then I'm asking them for a ride too, or I meet them there, which is always fun.
Excellent. So Cathy, is there a unique handle that applies to you that you like in your sphere of influence?
Just normal person. I actually had to get over my own dark thoughts when I first started riding the bus a lot, that I was a loser. I really had to combat that, and I'm not saying that, it's just, you know, you have to get that out of your head, that it's not a bad thing, you know? and it took me a while, but I just feel like I'm a normal, and I'm more active now than I ever was. And
yeah, you know, Enci and I were exploring the metro system when we first discovered it. We took the red line to the gold line to Pasadena to go to dinner and see a movie, and we took the gold line back to Union Station and found out we'd missed the red line because it didn't run that long, and so that shouldn't be a problem. We're reasonably intelligent. Surely we can find a bus. We found a bus, we thought, and we end up like farther downtown, and we see people like on corners, but we were not doing so well, and it was a homeless guy that saw us with that look on our face, and he gave us the advice, said, you're one street over, too far, you go the next street over. Then he went back to doing whatever he was doing, and you know, we got home finally, and didn't feel so confident. But there comes that moment where I just sometimes feel like a genius now, when I make 3 connections and get home quickly, and it works. So when things work, there's this moment of the universe has just hugged me. You know? And there are those moments, but I think, and I don't get that, I mean, find a parking space sometimes, I think, oh, what a genius I am, I found a parking space. You know, it didn't happen driving, you know, oh, look, I found a gas station. But sometimes now I think differently. There was this moment of insecurity, I think, you know, figuring out the systems, right? Metro, Metrolink, Dash, Commuter Express, right? Antelope Valley, Foothill, they're all around us, right? And they're all different. It's like being in Europe before the EU, you know? It's like trying to navigate the different boundaries. But I think there's this moment of just triumph when you master getting around in LA without being dependent on a car that's just sort of edifying. And,
well, you're in your own personal amazing race every day.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like sometimes I'm contestant of my own making. Also with Hopstop, I mean, there are these apps that you don't, it's so incredibly easy.
Yeah, Metro has a great app. Oh, you're on everything. He's got all his visual. The Metro app is like cheating on the Amazing Race because it's too easy now. It's really, really good.
And the next one comes,
yeah,
the next subway
it's
comes.
real-time updates. Yeah, so it tells you exactly when the bus is coming, and it's pretty amazing.
So Ed, how important is it to have people around you that support your choices, your transportation expressions, your commitment to saving the world, rubbing nickels, and all of the other things that motivate you? How important is it to have friends, family, co-workers that support this?
Have you met my wife?
I have.
I love my wife dearly, and apparently she tolerates me. But we did a show about our kind of difference of opinion about it called Living with Ed, that she, you know, is not as dedicated in the environmental realm as me, let's say. So she, you know, and that's, we make it work. We make it work. She, early on when we were dating, you know, would take the bus with me and what have you. And then once we were married, that was over. It was a moment, I think, when the ring went down the finger. Yeah. Before that, it was, no, honey, I made a tofu loaf and we'll go to the environmental conference on the bus. And then, I want a steak and a limo ride. Don't bother waiting up. The ladies and I are going to Chippendales. I'm doing a bit, of course, but she's fantastic. We've been together almost 20 years now, and we make it work. Even though she wouldn't take the bus for anything anymore. I got her a bus pass too, and she rarely uses it. But we still make it work. I get there on the bus when I need to go, and she, you know. She gets around in her hybrid car when she needs to get places, and often takes my electric car, not because I don't think she's trying to save the environment, but she knows it's fueled for free by the solar panels, you know. She didn't have to put any gas into it. But whatever way she does it, it's great, and we make it work. But back when I was doing it in 1970, people thought it was totally insane. Now I only have one person who thinks it's insane. That's my wife. We have a very unusual Hollywood marriage, if you haven't met my wife. We're the only Hollywood couple I know of that has a prenup that involves carbon credits.
Speaking of carbon credits and speaking of competitive spirits, is there a competition going on between you and anybody with regards to carbon footprint?
You're talking about Bill Nye, aren't
Bill Nye.
You had to bring up Bill Nye. We were doing so good this evening. Now, Bill is my great neighbor and friend, and we've had this, you know, like a wrestling match kind of competition. You know, it's kind of real, but kind of fun too. He and I have been on the board, the advisory board of the Union of Concerned Scientists for years, and he is a wonderful scientist, educated at Cornell. He's a real scientist. I'm a hobbyist, and he. You know, decided, wow, you got some solar panels, I'm going to put up some solar panels. And then you got a rain barrel, I'm going to get a rain barrel, and tried to one-up me in every turn. And so we've had a wonderful competition that we used a lot on the show, and it's been good. It gets some ink, you know, gets some media attention, which is what was our intention. And he's doing very well. I'm now kind of going on to another level of green. I've lived in my current home since 1988. It's an old 1936 home I've made as energy efficient as possible, and there's no more you can do to it. So now we're building a new LEED Platinum green home a mile east of us. When that's done, we'll move from my current home and move over there, and then I'll definitely be way ahead of Bill Nye.
There you go. So how about you, Enci? Is it important to have friends and people you work with and maybe a partner?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the first time when I got on the bicycle was when you were following me. I was so scared because...
Not because I was following her.
No, he was following me, supporting me, backing me up, because every time I looked back, I just saw these huge cars racing towards me. It was just a very, very frightening experience. I'm from Europe, and there it's a very different way of riding a bike. And then here I thought, hey, why not? But I look back, and there is just these huge monstrous trucks. Everything is so big in America. So he really helped me, and it was just a mile to go to my acting class that I used to take, and he used to escort me. And then I rode back when the traffic was less congested late at night. And then within the industry, I found that there were a lot of people who were supportive. I worked with directors, Cindy's one of them, who gave me rights. Another director who lives in North Hollywood, we used to shoot a film out in Apple Valley or something, I don't remember. But we always used to just commute. Then another friend of mine, he became a friend. He was a producer, and he cast me in his theater production in Hollywood. And he had his production studio, he did commercials. He had his production studio in Hollywood, and his car just always sat there. So when I had to do an audition, I just called him and say, hey, Tom, can I have your car? And he said, sure, it's there, there's the key. And he just gave me the car. I went to the audition and dropped it off, I cleaned it and filled it up, so I left it better than he gave it to me, and I had absolutely no problem with people supporting me, from directors, producers, no casting directors, but now I know one. But yeah, it's very, very helpful if you have people who's supporting and then who know what your lifestyle is, because if a director or somebody says you need to have a car to, and I don't want to, like, I do change. My mind has changed of where I would audition. I would not go to audition on the West Side unless it's a paying gig, or if it's for Ron Saucy, or somebody reputable. Or I would not go to Long Beach, where I before that considered. I was commuting down to Orange County to do theater productions, but I would never do that anymore, because why would I want to waste that money? There is plenty of talent locally, and I know of locally in Hollywood, the producers and the directors and the casting directors and whatever you need to get the job and work locally. And in fact, I did a production in Hollywood where I wrote and directed a short film, and two of my leading actors, they were also coming with the red line. So I encouraged everybody, and my producers were, one of the producers was car free. My DP, we convinced her that she should also take the metro to it, and instead of a dolly, we used a Buck Fiat bicycle. So we had Greensters on set. Instead of Teamsters, they were all Greensters. Everybody on bicycle who was traveling with their, picking up gear, picking up everything from local farmers market. Everything was locally delivered. So it was a completely green, sustainable film because of my lifestyle. So it changed my lifestyle from becoming a bike activist, changed into becoming a sustainable person, and now having a 16-month-old, I want to be even more sustainable. So I'm going to be starting to compete with you or seeking advice.
Quick story about the LA Greensters. It's all cyclist transpo team, and so they all showed up at the Grip House, and everyone came out of the Grip House and just stared at them, like who are these hippies on bicycles? And there's a queue. There's all these cube trucks lined up, ready to load. And there's one guy and hating life, and with all this gear to load, and everyone's behind him. So truck loads and leaves, truck loads and leaves, truck loads and leaves. Then the dozen hippies, the LA Greensters, and everyone's very skeptical. But they swarm. I mean, they're humans, and they broke it up in manageable chunks, and then loaded up bike trailers and extra cycles and Bach Fiats, and then poof, it was like this. So when the group came back, the LA Greensters, the Grip House gave them a big discount, big round of applause. Wow. They were quite tickled because people power is something that people admire when it comes down to it. I know there's car shows. I know everybody lines up. You mentioned Mustang, and everybody went, Mustang, I remember Mustang. You know what I mean? But people love to see people power. And there's something exhilarating when you get right down to it. And to watch a Grip House empty. And Grips are the toughest audience, aren't they? They're tough. They're tough to entertain, they're tough to impress, but that was kind of a fun story with the LA Teamsters making a film, LA Greensters. So Cindy, tell us, and is it important to have a support group, and have you used it as a reverse to create community that surrounds your expression of art?
Yeah, and I have to say also, being on that set for even the one day I think I was just extraordinary to see all the different ways that they didn't have to use resources. It was amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because I always would look at it, because I would, as much as I work from home, I often go to events and I often have to work late, and I kept apologizing to my husband for him having to go and pick me up and take time out of his night and this and that, and every once in a while, and it still happens, he'll just turn to me and say, I like spending time with you, that's why I married you. And it takes a while, because I do, being sort of dependent late at night, but then, when he's having a game night and I just need to take one bus, even though I'm laden with camera equipment or whatnot, depending on what I was doing, it's like, it's really just one bus. And that's just so kind of freeing and makes me feel like I'm back in my teens and 20s, because I did that all the time, just with massive amounts of costumes. But it was really also amazing as I was getting to know Atwater Village, and we had this whole Shop Atwater First campaign going on, because it's before we had a lot of new businesses on Glendale Boulevard, which is just beautiful now and still growing. I used it as a way to attract people to Atwater Village. So I would do more individual client coaching, and I would say, great, let's meet at Caldi Coffee and Tea. Here you go. Here's where to park. I'll be out at the awning, or do you mind if my dog comes? It's so nice outside. And luckily there are just so many places around that you can do that. And I loved, I knew the person who owned 55 Degree Wine, so I could go and just say, Andy, I'd like to have a party. That's a fundraiser. What can we do? And he was like, okay, any day but the food truck day, and you're in, you know. And because, or just trying to get rehearsals for shows to be, I would rent from friends who had businesses that they didn't use the time that I needed, or we would swap services or something. And it just made me have to be more creative when I would do outreach. When I was on the neighborhood council, I mean, does anybody here ever know if they've seen an agenda of a neighborhood council posted? Okay, that's because it's in like 5-point font. But I would check in on Foursquare every place that I posted the agenda, and just try to get people in the habit of, here's where you look. You know, if you remember one of these 6 places to look for news in your neighborhood, maybe you'll remember the library. Maybe you'll remember that we have a post office, which, quite honestly, I had never been to before I started walking. So it was always just this really nice way of introducing people to the neighborhood, and getting them to understand that Atwater Village is between the river and the tracks, and sometimes realtors tell you it's Los Feliz and it's not, or Silver Lake. And it became this really fun way to become sort of that neighborhood advocate, and especially when I would write for, I would both write for theater blogs to tell people about all the theater happening in Atwater Village or that was about to come, and they would give me like little tours, and then also for the local blogs, and just try to explain, you know, the difference between a new play and Shakespeare for people who'd never been to a theater before. It was so exciting, and it really, it completely, you guys know, but like it completely changed my outlook on outreach, marketing, what all of that means, because I wasn't just talking to artists all the time. I was talking to so many people who had such a different perspective on everything we do, and they could help me and I could help them, and it just became an awesome conversation that's still going on now.
So, Cathy, how important do you think it is to surround yourself with like-minded people, partners that support you, and did it open up your world or did it reduce your world?
You know, it opened up my world, definitely, but as far as like, I would like more of my friends to do what I'm doing. Like, it feels like I'm kind of a freak a little bit. However, I talked my boyfriend into giving up his car, so he doesn't have a car, which isn't really a great idea because now there's really nobody intimate that I can call up to come pick me up when I'm at the Comedy Store on Sunday night. I live in Santa Monica, by the way, so I would not advise that for anybody. If you're an actor, you should probably live closer to the epicenter and not Santa Monica. So, like, I'm at the Comedy Store on Sunday night, and it's 11:30. I'm like, oh my God, like, I really wish somebody would come pick me up right now. So I'll just, I did get home on the bus, but.
I totally know friends that like post like things on Facebook like, I need a ride, can someone come get me? And people do come pick you up. Not even strangers, like your friends. Like, I know people have done that before, so. I guess I'll try that. Yeah, try it.
I was just going to say, there was one time Enci was on her way to a rehearsal of mine, and I was about to text her and be like, oh, did you find the place? And I just looked on Twitter, and she was like, oh, look at all the houses here, and like describing the neighborhood to her followers. I'm like, okay, she's about a block away.
So, Alissa, do you have a challenge for us this evening?
Oh, well, yes. Part of the Los Angeles Magazine article that I wrote had some little tips for a way that you can kind of ease into the idea of being car-free or car-light without taking the plunge. Or maybe you could just go get a DUI. Now I think that's actually a better idea. No, don't do that. But to force yourself not to drive. But don't do that. But to give yourself a reason not to drive, you can draw a circle around your house, and this is something that I did a long time ago before I even decided to get rid of my car. I drew a 2-mile circle around my house, which you can do with I did it with a Thomas guide actually back in the day, and like a ruler and like a piece of string. But you could do it on Google Maps or whatever. And then you just promise yourself that you're only going to walk, bike, or take transit anywhere in that 2-mile circle. And that's a good way to get started because first of all, it will get you to realize that 2 miles is really only like 40 minutes tops walking, which you replace that as your exercise for the day and you're good to go. Like you don't need to go to the gym, give up your gym membership, and then you save even more money that way. And then what you'll also start to see is how many businesses are in that 2-mile circle. So you'll start to see, oh, why do I go to a dry cleaner in Santa Monica when I could go to a dry cleaner who does, I don't know if it go that far, there must be a really good dry cleaner. But you'll start to see how many businesses that you can swap for the uses that are by you. And that was the biggest, I was convinced, when I lived by the Hollywood Bowl, I thought Target was like 30 miles away. And I was like, oh, I could never walk there. That is ridiculous. Like, I need to drive to Target. And I drew the circle, and Target was inside my 2-mile. And I was like, God, I spend as much time looking for a parking space in the Target parking lot as I could walk there probably in about 30 minutes. So that's my challenge, I guess my suggestion if you want to get started and try it. If you don't even want to try it every day, try it like 1 day a week even at first and see what happens. And I think it's a game. That's why I think it's so fun to get rid of your car, because it turns LA into this video game, or Amazing Race. I'm going to use that from now on. That's a really good comparison.
You know, Alissa mentions how long it takes to walk 2 miles, and it's funny because when you first start, it doesn't take as long as when you start meeting everybody on the route. And now, when I'm in a hurry and I'm trying to get to the red line, hi, Mickey, how are you? Hi, Bashir, how are you? I have to stop at all the merchants and, how are you? Or you can cross the street, but then they'll see me. Hi, Eric, and then you just stop and chat. So some routes take longer because you ended up creating community along the way. And it's not easy to do sometimes when you're in a hurry. Very quickly, could you tell us, is there a neighborhood you discovered as a result of walking, riding, getting lost in the metro downtown, and that you would recommend to someone that's coming from another city to Los Angeles? Tell us one of your favorite cities or neighborhoods as a result of your new lifestyle.
Hollywood, definitely Hollywood. We live right by the Vine and the Western Metro Station, so we're quickly in North Hollywood or the Valley if you need to go with the Orange Line to casting any auditions. West Side, you can take the 780 bus usually out to Santa Monica or Venice, and you can go downtown. You can go to Pasadena with the 780. You can go also down to South LA and Western, so it's perfect to be in Hollywood, live in Hollywood, and get a bike. And you can also get your bike on the metro, get it on the bus. And if you ride a bike just like you ride a car. So same direction, not against traffic, take the lane, and be assertive and expect anything and everything. So be very cautious, no earplugs. I actually tried that once with a headset to listen to music, and it was just driving me nuts that I couldn't hear the cars or people or things, birds or people yelling and smells. I mean, everything is even if you have an earpiece, you don't smell as good. You don't see, your senses are kind of shut off. But
little PSA anyways. There for the cyclists in the room. Cindy, how about a neighborhood that's a big favorite for you?
I'm going to cheat. The short answer is downtown. And just understanding where everything is in relation to each other. Right. There's no way I would have with a car. But Cypress Park, because I had to, landlords moved there, and at the same time I was meeting these great librarians on Twitter, and they invited me to an event, and it was just so amazing. So that one time when I was passing through to go to Pasadena, I was like, oh, I know where I can stop for a great meal, or I have a headache. Oh, that guy who sells all the fruit, that's exactly what I need right now. Give me a whole chopped up cucumber. And I never, ever, ever would have, that's so cheesy, but eaten of that fruit, but like a vendor that I never would have experienced without it. And I just think Cypress Park has so much great history. It's been really fun watching it.
Excellent. Favorite neighborhood? One you'd recommend to folks coming from another?
Yeah, I would agree with Hollywood. Also, I lived in Silver Lake for a while, for a year, and I thought that I could take a bus anywhere there. I mean, it's as long as you're near Sunset Boulevard, you can get anywhere. I love going to you can live in Pasadena and still take public transportation. Or North Hollywood is a good, if you want to spend less money.
Yeah.
Downtown's great. I don't know. I love LA so much. I think there's some great neighborhoods, and I feel safe everywhere. And I know that's an issue with some women, especially you're taking the bus late at night. And I always feel safe. I've never had a weird experience happen. So
excellent. Alissa, favorite neighborhood?
Definitely Silver Lake. I originally gave up my car in Hollywood. That's another great transit neighborhood. Downtown, you can pretty much get on anything, anywhere, and go anywhere. As far as a neighborhood, I've discovered Boyle Heights. I would never have gone there if the Gold Line hadn't, feathered its way through. And it is the most walkable, friendly, best food vendors. Yeah, amazing food. Mariachi Plaza has like this great bookstore called Libro Schmibro. So there really is just it opened up a world to me, because I really didn't even know that much about what was over on the other side of the river at all, besides going to Pasadena. So I think the fact that those transit lines kind of paved the way for people to discover other places, pretty cool.
Excellent. Ed, favorite neighborhood?
I would agree. Boyle Heights, now that Gold Line, it makes it so easy to get there from the San Fernando Valley. Take the red line, then just take one or two stops on the Gold Line. You're right there in these wonderful restaurants. This little place, Antojitos, appetizers place is just like fantastic and great, and great prices. It's really wonderful. Then the other one that I've been around my whole life, and it was a good neighborhood beforehand, before the red line came there, that's NoHo. The NoHo district was great. Now it's fantastic. It just, you build it and they will come. All these, there was, these wonderful shops that sprung up, and restaurants and coffee shops, and it's just fantastic. NoHo is better than ever because of the red line and what they've done there.
Excellent. So we've received some questions from the audience, and then some folks have tweeted in some questions, and we've gotten some email questions. So I'm just going to toss them out there. And this first question, Cathy, is about someone who's new to LA and 1 month. And it's Lindsay says, I have a bike and I want to stay car free. Any recommendations on affordable neighborhoods to live in that are still central for auditioning? So from your perspective,
I think what we talked about, I still think Hollywood is, and West Hollywood is kind of cool, and also it's best not to have a car in West Hollywood because the traffic is so horrible, and you don't want to park at the Grove anyway. So I would say that West Hollywood, Silver Lake, Los Feliz.
For one of the actors, perhaps you could help Marie out here. Have you ever lost a job as a result of not having a car, or have you ever gotten a job as a result of not having a car?
I guess I've gotten a job because of not having a car. I was asked to come and speak at something at Pacific Palisades, and I was a little grumpy. Do I want to do that? Yeah, I went and I rode my bike there and what have you. And they were very impressed with that. Then I got a call, said the producer was so impressed that you rode your bike and got there in a green manner. They want you to do this show. They asked me to do the show.
That's great.
I gave a talk at his son's school there, and I did this show, Rules of Engagement.
Excellent.
I got a job too because of being car free. A director friend, she did a short music video, and because she knew that I was the sustainable Enci, she just cast me for that as the sustainable girl for that part, and I rode the bus because she knew that I like to do that. So yes, I got a job, and I never got no jobs because I was not owning
That's
a car.
3 negatives. Wait.
I know, that was very confusing for me too. So I never lost a job because I don't have a car, but I did get a job because I'm a proud cyclist.
So Alissa has a question, and perhaps you could take this one, Alissa. We've mentioned the term new urbanism, and a lot of the terms that we bandy about these days I think are made up and we don't know what they mean. But perhaps you could expand on what is new urbanism, what's happening, this gestalt of walking and riding a bicycle, and you write about architecture and the impact on the width of sidewalks and trees. So what's going on with regards to this new urbanism, and what steps are being made to make Los Angeles more pedestrian friendly?
Very good question. So I would say, the term new urbanism kind of has a slight tinge to it that some people don't like, because you're kind of building brand new places that need to be completely new and different than what came before in the streets. I would say a lot of LA is actually very well suited to a pedestrian lifestyle, because that's how it was built originally way back in the day, before we got rid of things like our streetcars and other parts of public transit that were actually very positive. So there's the older neighborhoods, that's why they're so much better for transit, is because if you go places like Silver Lake, have these beautiful public stairways that weave through the hills, where people walk down the stairs to get to the trolley to go to work in the morning. And so a lot of our infrastructure is actually very good for getting around without a car. The problem is what happened when certain neighborhoods expanded after the car became king, and there was no consideration about people who live in the hills. You're not going to be able to get down if you live up in Coldwater Canyon, usually, especially when it's closed, I think, to cars for a while or something, whatever's going on. So my point is, what happened in LA over the last few years, decades, is the streets just got wider and wider and wider. They were just take up as much sidewalk as possible. The pedestrians are basically getting squeezed out, and bikers, good luck on a lot of the busiest streets, because you have no space at all. So the movement that's occurring right now in Los Angeles is called the Complete Streets movement, or in LA, a lot of people call it living streets as well, kind of that streets should be for people, and that streets should be serving, in this order, pedestrians, bikers, transit riders, and then the cars. Not that we're saying cars can't be on the road, but they don't get priority, which is the issue right now. So a lot of the changes that you're actually going to be seeing happening in LA are pretty awesome. Wider sidewalks, more visible crosswalks. Downtown, there's a really cool project that I'm actually helping to consult on, where there's going to be a separated bike lane in the roadway. So we'll go pedestrians, bikers on their bike path, parked cars to protect the bikers from any crazy drivers, and then also these amazing rapid bus lanes, which you probably have already seen around the city, where the buses can kind of easily breeze through, and in certain times of day, they get priority. So this is really, the buildings themselves are in pretty good. A lot of these nice walkable neighborhoods are pretty nice. I don't think we need to bulldoze neighborhoods and put up a whole bunch of new apartment buildings or something. The real challenge is in the streets, and we just had last year 2 pedestrian coordinators get appointed at LADOT. So for the first time, we have 2 staffers, and this is their full-time job to make sure that the streets are going to be safer for pedestrians. So you'll see the crosswalks going in. There are already about 53, I think, that have been installed, and there's many more coming. But you'll start to see these roadway designs change, and that will be the real victory, is when the bikers, you actually do feel safe, and you don't feel like you have to be scared when you go out on the streets.
Yes, excellent. So there's apparently a producer in the room that wants to take this group on the road. Yeah. And
how do we get there on the road? Which road?
It'll be
on the bus.
And so, Cindy, perhaps you could help us here. Someone is suggesting that this panel form a group on the internet under meetings, and since you're Cindy's our social media guru. I think I remember when Enci started insisting I text, and I thought, this is so annoying. And life has changed so quickly, so much. But Cindy, could we form a group? How would we form a group? And is this one of the opportunities for us to complement a new lifestyle with new ways to connect and to meet without having to always just hop in the car and drive and meet? But what would you suggest if we were to form a group, and how would we do it?
Well, there was something really interesting that happened last September with Carmageddon. There was a group of people who created Artmageddon, which was basically taking this idea of stay at home, stay out of your car, and instead harnessing all that energy on what are we going to do without the 405, and putting it to walk or bus or bike to your local art. And it completely took off. I mean, it was really extraordinary how much people really enjoyed it. And I feel like if there is a way of getting people behind something, you know, we got a lot of testimonials, because I strategized their social media, but got so many testimonials back from people who said, I never knew that there was an art gallery in my neighborhood, you know. And it's the same thing, you know, if you're not looking for the intimate theater scene, you're not going to know that behind that door necessarily is a theater. So if there's some, I think it's always great to have the common bond. I think it often something more positive maybe than the LA Scanner. You know, it's just a Twitter account that helps people, that acts more as a concierge, and then something similar for people not on Twitter. That just really is a place you know you can go to find the information you need. You know, whether there's a Metro app or a cab app or whatever it is, just if there's, rather than necessarily like a meetup group, or maybe it's Meetup, I don't know. I've enjoyed Meetup lately. Rather than a website you have to go and then find the information, you can just ask. There's somebody that will be available to answer your a live Google Maps or something like that, which has been so helpful, although I used to have my old Thomas guide.
You know, it's interesting how things have shifted a tad. You mentioned carbon footprint, and Enci has been using the social media footprint metaphor, which is that often just the best way is to leave lots of footprints, literally, out there, and let people find you rather than the older forced gestalt of, you know, meeting at a certain time and getting together, but just pushing information and letting people follow and find what they need. So you're pollinating, if you will. So maybe we'll get together as a group and go on the road. Maybe not. Maybe we'll just create a space. Maybe we'll just start leaving some footprints, and folks can follow. I do have a question, Cathy, and perhaps you could get very specific here. Do you have advice for people that are car-free, that are going to interviews? Should they reveal that they're car-free? Is it an obstacle? I mean...
That's a really good question. I don't know. I'm a little torn whether they should reveal that. I mean, I hate to say that.
But I would ask, why would you care? Like, as
I
an
wouldn't
actor,
care,
yeah.
but like
So,
I wouldn't care, but other people
but
might.
the director,
Some
the
director might.
producer,
Especially,
yeah.
like, and if you're trying to get like a production assistant job, you can't
Right.
tell
Yeah.
them you don't have a car
Right.
because you're not going to get the job. So, I mean, I guess actors, it doesn't matter as much.
But I think it should be more like, if they can get there, no matter how they're getting to their job, it doesn't matter. So they can rent a car. I rent a car if I need to, or I can get a ride, or so it really. I've never
You can
went
take a
to
cab
an
or-
interview
yeah.
and said, I'm car free and I'm, you know, they just see that I ride my bike and then the conversation comes up. But I never. My agent is the only one who doesn't approve with me being car free. So if she calls me, she says, I hope you're not on a bike because there is an audition. I'm like, no, I'm not. And I'm looking up on my phone if there is a car rental nearby, and I immediately just drop my bike and get a car rental and get home and change and go to the audition. But I think as long as anybody on a job, I don't think you need to reveal. I don't think as actors you need to tell anybody, hey, I don't have a car. I think just make sure that you get there. And oftentimes if you get there without a car, you're actually there on time. because you're not stuck
Well,
in
you're actually
traffic.
there early. I always
And
get
that's right,
placed. I used to be
early.
late for everything, but now I'm early just because you
Exactly.
lose so much time,
Yes.
you know. So
Sorry for taking your question away. Or your
no,
answer.
no, because I was floundering. Because I really don't think. Yeah, I think you should be a little discreet, which is kind of weird, like a secret that you're hiding.
It's like you don't tell them your age. You don't tell casting
Exactly.
directors your
Age or
you don't tell them what
transportation.
exactly. Those are the two taboos.
Transportation issue.
And in contrast to being a little discreet about the choices that you're making with regard to transportation, again today I was reminded, because they're shooting downtown at City Hall, but I'm reminded of the no actors sign is still very much a part of our lives. And so it'll be out the prime parking spaces. It was even in the restrooms in City Hall, no actors. Because they had the honey wagons out in the street. But the streets are living, and they're being used for many things. But anyway, so here's a question for everybody. Has the choices you've made with regard to transportation affected your health?
Yes. Lack of stress, just the ability to take a breather. Now, if I'm feeling stressed at work, which is in my house, I usually will just say, I'm going to walk to lunch. I'm going to take my dog. Sometimes I put in classical music, which makes everything feel way more epic. But it's really great, actually. And there's one time, it's about an hour-and-a-half walk to Jamba Juice and back, and I said, I'm going to take this. If I was in an office, I would take this. And I've just felt so much better, and there are really no short walks in Atwater Village like in Hollywood, so seeing people I hadn't seen before, which just kind of makes you feel part of the world around you, and having that freedom to take that hour and a half. And I was thinking on the way here, I was like rushing to the stop because of course I was working up until the time I had to leave for my bus, but it was so great to know that I had given myself an extra 40 minutes that I wouldn't have if I was driving. Because once I hustle to get to my bus stop, which is 2 blocks away, if someone else takes care of it, so, and again, just having that time to read more, to catch up on things, and most of the time I call my family when I'm on the bus.
Anyone else with regards to health?
I don't think, not just health, but I think it makes you more creative. I think your creative juices, when I rode my bike, at the very beginning, I was just so full of visions and thoughts and ideas, and my hand was on the handlebar, and I couldn't write them down, and it just really drove me nuts because I thought, I need something to capture these ideas that I have. So I think creatively, it's just so important that you get out of the car and smell and I mean, even if it smells bad, you will use it. If you're, you can use it. If it smells good, you can hear people playing in the backyard, dogs barking, people shouting. I mean, creatively, it's just, it's your mental health. You need it. I think you need to get out of a car and take a walk and get on a bus and study people and get on a bike. And even if it's scary, it's something that you can use. Absolutely. I mean, oftentimes when it's scary, I'm arriving at, my rehearsals completely fired up, and I'm so honest and I'm so raw because the emotions are there. You can't hide it. You can't hide them as you do in a car. You kind of, in a car, you get yourself together and you're like, okay, I'm proper and I'm pretty and all that stuff. You can't do that when you're walking or riding a bike and you become raw. And I think a lot of actors from those cities are raw, in walkable cities, New York, Chicago, they're so raw because of that, because they experience life around them. So I think LA actors should do that too.
Sorry to jump in one more time, just really quick. Another thing, if you look at your car, it's such an embodiment of your own personal clutter. I mean, cleaning out my car before it went to the donation, I was shocked at some of the things that were still in there, and I'm a decently clean person, but it's so amazing to need to keep it all within your bag, or to get that perfect bag, as opposed to just letting it all live in the air you're breathing.
I would say the mental health and the creativity for sure, and kind of like the decluttering thing was a big, just a weight off of your head and not having to deal with car stuff. I lost a bunch of weight when I first got rid of my car. I think I've gained it all back because I found out where all the taco stands and bars are that are really good. But the other thing that I did last year was this is a Nike Fuel Band, which is a pedometer that measures steps and fuel. It's some kind of Nike term, which is kind of like your motion, how many calories you're burning above normal living. And the goal that you're supposed to take every day is 10,000 steps, which sounds like a lot. It ends up to be around 4 or 5 miles. And you can get it pretty easily if you're taking transit and walking and biking and doing things like that throughout your day. So it's kind of displacing that gym time and spreading it out all over the city. And again, a game. Like, you can compete with people with this. Like, you guys can be competitive, and and it's so much fun to be able to look down and be like, oh, I have, actually, let's check. Because I did walk pretty far today. So I reached my goal. It gives you a little, like, goal. It makes you feel good about yourself. And as far as steps taken, let's see. Sorry, hold on. Steps taken today, 19,500 steps today. So that's really, it makes you feel so good to look down and see that during the day.
So do you reward yourself with
gelato?
Gelato. And your Twitter handle is?
Gelato baby.
Gelato baby. Ed has done amazing things with regards to creating an environmental infrastructure around your home and the space around it. And Alissa mentioned some citywide, new urbanist type living streets, complete streets, changes that are taking place. But this next question kind of illustrates another change that's taking place in our culture simply because of the folks that are on stage and the fact that they're being what they want to see in our city. And that's the social infrastructure is changing. And if you think about it, everyone with a car has car insurance. And if you bump into the car in the parking lot, I'm covered. We'll exchange insurance. But as a pedestrian, you don't carry insurance, and if you get tagged on the street, who do you call? As a cyclist, it happens. If you get hit, what happens? Who goes to defend you? We had a cyclist friend that was hit, left in the street, and as it turns out, insurance companies can navigate the legal system much quicker than the family of someone left in the street. And so this next question, things are changing. There are now opportunities. There's an insurance company that'll service pedestrians and cyclists. We kept motor insurance just for that purpose, automobile insurance, long after we went car-free, just because it's scary not to have insurance. But this next question illustrates one of the fears that we experience, and it's for anyone. Does anyone know of a good law firm that specializes in representing cyclists? The answer is yes. Anyone?
Yes.
Have you had experiences?
I was just recently, somebody opened a car door when I was on my bike and I fell off and stuff, but their insurance covered it.
Right.
But I didn't have to go get a lawyer.
Yeah. And here's the deal. If they had denied that they were responsible, who's going to represent you? Because you don't have an insurance company that will fight for you. So when two motorists collide, two insurance companies work it out. When a pedestrian and a cyclist collide with a motor vehicle, the insurance company prevails because they're dominant. But there is a lawyer. There are a few lawyers. And the fact that there are support organizations like that, and I'll tell you later, do the recommend. I don't know if it's appropriate. Is it? We have to. It is? Thomas Forsyth is a lawyer in Pasadena that has helped us out, and he represents cyclists, and he specializes because he knows the law, and he knows that when you open the door of a car and hit a cyclist, the person opening the door is at fault, and that's the law. Yeah, so this isn't based on our fancies or our opinions or mythology. It's law. It's complicated. That's why lawyers specialize.
If he opens the door on another car, it's his fault too.
Right. But
negligent door opening, like literally, that's.
Yeah, and so the fact that there are lawyers now that support cyclists and pedestrians demonstrates the fact that there are engineers and planners, the fact that there are 2 transportation planners in the Department of Transportation. The world as we know it is changing. So I hope I answered that question. Thomas Forsyth in Pasadena. And by the way, the DOT's mandate was to speed up traffic for a long time. And now even defining the word traffic. What is traffic? Is traffic something moving really fast? Or is it the ebbing and flowing of humans in a multitude of different mechanisms and modes and purposes? Because you might be meandering, doing a radio show. I might be hustling and bustling because I'm late to the red line. You might be on your way. You know, we all have different purposes, which puts pedestrians at odds sometimes. If you ever go to Union Station and try to go upstream during rush hour, it's like, you know, pedestrian on pedestrian. Pedestrian down. Anyway, Colleen has a question, and she says, my biggest deterrent... By the way, you mentioned complete streets and safe streets and shared streets, living streets, but there's also, we forget that streets only work if they work for the most vulnerable. And I especially had my eyes open when Enci said, well, this is why I'll walk here. It's because I can see the doorways better. I thought, oh, I never thought of that. But children are seeing things lower. So sometimes, oh, what a pretty bush we put in, means that children aren't safe anymore, or aren't comfortable because they can't see because they're at a different height. So that includes complete safe streets, safe routes to school for kids is another element. In other words, how can kids ride and walk and get to school? It's so sad that traffic congestion around schools is caused by the parents that are afraid to let their children walk to school, which makes the schools the most dangerous neighborhood.
I live right near a school, and the stop signs seem to be optional for a lot of people, which just frustrates me.
So children are being hit by the parents of other children dropping them off in the city of LA, because that's an opportunity for us to make our streets safer for everybody, which includes you know, our grandparents who just want to get to the coffee shop. You mentioned the coffee shop, which is the center of Atwater. But how sad if seniors aren't comfortable crossing the street. But this question is about feeling safe, and it's from Colleen. It says, my biggest deterrent to using mass transit is feeling unsafe. Alone at night, either walking to unfamiliar stops or having to wait at desolate stops. What, if anything, do you do to make yourself feel safer? Anyone?
Well, I mean, I do this a lot. That's why I said I'm. First of all, if you're in the city, there's not that many desolate spots, and I walk all the time in the dark in Santa. I mean, like I said, I feel like if you know where you're going, I mean, you can't prevent everything from happening in your life that's bad, right? And so to fear it feels like it adds stress to it. If you don't fear it, there you go. I mean,
yeah, I remember when I was in New York, I would always, when I was walking down a street, always look to say, oh, there's a hotel, like there's a light, there's something like that. So I sort of just kind of trained myself to see where other people were if it looked desolate. But yeah, mostly I'm lucky that I live around a lot of different routes. So if I don't necessarily want to go on that intersection, I spend 10 more minutes and take another route. Thank you, Google Maps. But, you know, it's really just more a matter of feeling safe. And more often than not, the only time I've felt or worried about it being unsafe is like a Saturday night going from a theater all the way home on the bus with all of my camera equipment and things. And usually what happens is people get up and give me their seat because I'm laden with it. Nobody tries anything. Or so it's really, it's been really kind of uplifting for me meeting all those people, you know, conversing with people I never would have before, just because we were sitting next to each other.
Also, you're unsafe in your car too. I mean, you're probably more likely to be in a car accident than something happened to you on a bus.
Statistically,
Statistically, you know, and you don't think a second thought of getting in your car, right? So.
And I'll also say, if I was ever being pursued by somebody, I happen to be lucky enough to be near a subway stop, for instance, I'd run down into the subway. There's cameras everywhere, only a completely insane person. There's, there's security people often in the subway or near the subway. So I find the subways to be extremely safe in LA.
I've never had, I think we can all say that we've waited at dark stops, probably ones that weren't the most comfortable, maybe. That there's been times it's been raining. There's been people who looked kind of sketchy, but I've never had a single bad experience yet. And I do think there are people everywhere. There has very, very rarely been a time when I've even waited by myself at a bus stop. And of course, the walk. I think that it's the whole last mile syndrome, that kind of question about getting from yourself to the stop. If that makes you feel unsafe, that's a big issue. That's you need to.
That's the difference.
That's the biggest difference. If you in your own neighborhood don't feel like you can get from your house to the stop, that's a big problem, and that's when you get involved with your neighborhood council and get lights put in and get the bus stop moved to be in front of a bar, or it doesn't have to be in front of a bar, but like for me, technically, I just go to one place with bars, but bars are cool because they're open. Yeah, but bars are open late, and there's always people around them, so it's actually like I feel pretty comfortable usually if there's a bar
that idea,
or I just go in the bar. But and that's another reason why the app is really nice, because it does tell you if you know that bus, if it's late at night, that bus is not coming for 25 minutes, you can stay inside with your friends and have, a little bit more to drink or eat or watch another, thing on the sports game, whatever you're watching. So I think that it's helping us be a little bit smarter about our choices and knowing how far away another stop is, maybe, if we don't like it.
Try something. I tried it on the way from the bus stop here. And you just smile and say hello to people as you're walking by. It throws a lot of people off. But it's such a great way of just being comfortable there, and the people who do take it and smile back, or sometimes they'll just give an embarrassed, like, hi.
Hi, don't rob me.
Yeah. It's just kind of extraordinary when you make those connections with people that are willing.
Nice. They're super nice in LA. Everyone is.
Every year here in Los Angeles it rains, and every year I say to Enci, has this ever happened before? I'm like so surprised every time it rains, because it never, to me the weather is constant, and Enci checks it every day and notices the 2-degree shift, and I'm like, if it's not a couple of inches of water, it doesn't even count as rain. But anyway, it's a good question that came from Sean, which is, how do you deal with weather issues while going to auditions and bookings when it rains all of a sudden from Valley to Hollywood?
Have an umbrella? Get a raincoat and an umbrella.
Yeah, it rarely rains in LA, but if it does, we were stranded one time at UCLA and it came down, and we had absolutely not, USC? Yes. USC, and we didn't expect it. We were there at some screening, and we were staring outside, and we're like, okay, we have to get out. And we're on our bikes. Like, even just getting from the place to our cars, we would be drenched wet, so it doesn't matter. So we got on our bikes, and we got, within minutes, we got drenched, and then we were warm, and it was really fun. so it was okay. But if you have an audition, it really rarely rains in LA, and if it does, then rent a car or have somebody give you a ride. If I probably would not ride I never ridden my bike when it was raining to an audition. I rode it all other times, but it really rarely rains. So if it does, then yeah, rent a car or ask for a ride, I would say.
And the other, I do get asked this one also. People will say, how do you ride your bike to work? And when you arrive, then what? And I'm all, well, why would you sprint to work and make it an Olympic trial workout, and then expect to arrive, ready to go to work without having to take a break? It's just a little bit of planning, you plan a little differently. And again, with regards to the world is changing to accommodate great behavior, City Hall has put in facilities that you can store your bicycle outside, you can store your bicycle in lockers. There are facilities so that you can change. Roll up the clothes you're going to wear at the office, and then you just have you arrive early and take a few minutes to to transition. And the same is true, I think, for an audition, you know, or whether just in for a spell or working along, is just to plan ahead. Because keep in mind, you spent more time looking for a parking space than it would have taken to have a fun ride, discover a new neighborhood. And she did have a Thomas guide where she kept track of all the streets that we rode, and it was really annoying because she just wanted to ride different streets, and her goal was to fill these pages. And I'd be in like in a hurry, and she's, oh, we already rode this street. And I'm like, oh. So we have to go. But it just was one of those things, kind of like Alissa's, you know, when you start keeping score of something, then you just start doing it more. So, you know, in that sense, I think it's just great sometimes to keep track and to give it a whirl. But as far as the weather, you know, a little bit of planning ahead. And I never plan ahead, so I always get drenched. And so such is life, eh? What do you think, Cindy?
I was just saying, get a fun hat. I was never into hats, really, until I started walking and taking the bus, just to have it in case, and it makes it pretty fun.
And someone passed a card that said Next Bus is an app that tells when the next bus arrives. Is that the one you're using? Next Bus?
The Metro app, the regular Metro app is the Next Bus technology, I think, that is used to be just for our system.
And a hop stop. Hop stop is great, and it's for everyone.
And there's some fun cycling ones also that'll tell you routes to get with no hills, medium hills, or lots of hills. Did you take the big hill over there?
There is there's a website called bikemetro.com, and then it's a / whatever. It's a non-profit website, so it's not always updated. It's not like Google, but it's really cool because it gives you the different levels of what you want to take, if you want to take hills or not hills. Yeah. And very few people know about it. It's owned by just a couple people. Bikemetro.com or .net. Check it out.
So we have a few cycling questions. And cyclists are often, they hear motorists honking at them, and I have a friend that says they're honking out of jealousy. And I know this to be true. I know this to be true from Laurel Canyon, because in the morning, or early in the morning, when I was coming over from the valley side, at the bottom of Laurel Canyon, the motorists were alongside me, and it's wider there at the bottom, and it narrows, and with a coffee and a donut and a cigarette and, you know, and an attitude. But the thing is, halfway up Laurel Canyon, you start to smell clutch, because it's just, you know, traffic congestion. And at the top of the hill, it's the same motorist. Coffee, donuts gone, attitude, big time. And they would squeeze me a tad. You know, there was this, because by then it is getting a little competitive, and I'm doing better than them. Much better. And they have attitude, and their clutch is burning. You can, anyway. So a cyclist asked, this is Meredithville on Twitter, says, I'm an avid cyclist in New York City, planning to move to LA soon. How are all the bike lanes here in Los Angeles? And how is the driver awareness of bicycles or cyclists?
Every lane is a bike lane here in Los Angeles, and you have to take the lane. That's my comment.
It's getting better. The Los Angeles Bicycle Coalition and others, and you guys have helped, you know, get more bike lanes. And you're right, every lane is a bike lane, but we have better, more obvious to the drivers, striped lanes that give us a little bit more protection. There's some bike paths. There's trickways. Like when I came from Laurel and Ventura this evening, I went up Fryman. So I was out of the way of all that traffic, people going 50 miles an hour,
Right.
and I'm going 8. So I went up Fryman, then up to Donna Dorothea and around. I got near the top to Mulholland without, you know, seeing any cars really. And then they're all stuck in traffic,
Right.
so I'm riding much faster than them at that point. So that's my little trick. And then when I'm going down Laurel from the Hollywood side, when I get past Mulholland heading into Hollywood, I'm going as fast as them
Right.
because I'm going downhill.
Gravity
So
assist.
yeah. So I have all my little trick ways that I get around, and the more you involve yourself with the bicycle community here, the more you learn them. We share all those different routes, and so welcome to LA from New York. I hope you get here soon if you're not here already, and we'll tell you a lot of trick ways to get around and avoid cars.
There you go.
Yeah, and you also discover great small streets, residential streets to bike around, like to avoid Pico or Lincoln or whatever.
Right.
Like beautiful streets. It feels like you're the only person on them.
Yeah, if you're coming from New York, avoid Pico and Olympic.
Yeah,
It's
and I live, yeah, 'cause
horrible.
I
It's
bike
horrible.
all all around.
But Venice
Go and
is your
yeah.
friend. Venice Boulevard, you can go all the way out to the ocean from downtown, and it's got a bike lane the whole way. And a lot of the lights seem to be timed for a bicycle. It's pretty good.
When I moved here, people told me it would take 2 years to really feel like I knew my way around. And I guarantee if you're starting cycling or walking, you'll get to know so much faster how to get places and how places relate to each other, because it is so vast here.
The city became really small once I rode my bike across town, and I realized, oh my God, I can ride from Pasadena or from Hollywood to Pasadena, from Hollywood to Santa Monica or to South LA, Long Beach. We rode, and all of a sudden I get it. I get LA. Before that, in a car, I only knew the freeway routes, and if it was traffic, and I took off an off ramp because I wanted to like be tricky and find my way home, and I was in some weird intersection, and I was freaking out, thinking, oh my God, it's so dark, I don't know where I'm at. Ah! And now with a bike, I really, in regards to safety too, I ride through neighborhoods that I would have never driven my car, because it was just scary, and you're seeing it on a different level in a car. Everything is kind of lower and darker. When you're on a bicycle, you're higher up, and it's just a different view, and I ride any and every street at any time of the day or night. So it's a great town. It's small. It's a small town.
And speaking of Venice Boulevard, you guys know about Ciclavia, where the streets open to, it's technically closed, but we say the streets are open to biking, walking, skateboarding, whatever. So on April 21st, if you go to ciclavia.org, you can see the route map, and the streets are going to be closed from downtown all the way to, and along Venice Boulevard all the way to Venice Beach. So it's kind of like this awesome path through the city. And that's when I actually got my bike for the first time. I had this like clunky, horrible bike, and I got a new bike. And it's really, if you want to start biking in the city, that's a great time just to get comfortable on being on the roads in general. Of course, they're closed to cars, but it's a great time to just feel out, the little bumps. There's some bumps and potholes in the street, and to meet other bikers and be part of this community and see how the city works when it comes to bike infrastructure. So that's a Sunday, April 21st, which is a great day to get out there and be car free.
And I think one of the important things that happens on Ciclavia for a lot of folks that don't walk or ride, and by the way, it's just whatever. There was a gym downtown that moved all their gear into the street, and they just worked out. Right? Because the streets were just meant to be for humans. Yeah. And there was a barber shop that moved their chair out and were given share cuts. And there was a DJ. There was the big chess set. There was dodgeball. In other words, the streets were just meant to come alive. But one of the things that's interesting about Ciclavia is for our friends that had never ridden a long way or walked a long way, when you say downtown to here, it's, oh my God. That's a long way. But when someone rides to the beach or walks across town, there's something edifying about that. Oh my God, I had no idea I could do 20 miles. So now the 6-mile commute on a bicycle is no longer a big deal. A lot of times the big deals are just things we haven't done before. Once you've done it, it's like, oh, yawn. Now I do this all the time. So that's an exciting thing about Ciclavia. And I don't know if dodgeball is part of your commuting strategy, but if it is, there's an opportunity on Ciclavia. There was there was theater, there was all sorts of just people creating art using human movement as the expression. So it's a really exciting time also to see what the streets look like when they're filled with people. They're beautiful. They're bleak at times when it's just traffic, but when they're filled with there was clusters of parents with baby prams pushing, like there was just people, meeting others and then going the same direction. And that's something really exciting. So this question was, it ended with the driver, motorists becoming more aware of cyclists, but I think that everyone's more aware of pedestrians and cyclists these days, and that's really exciting. There's the Cyclists LAPD Task Force. Alissa mentioned the Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which actually advises the city of LA on walking, something that we've taken for granted for so long. But in other words, organizations are coming together to impact policy and change the way the folks that, work for the public run the city, the county. So I think lots of great things are happening for Meredithville, and we look forward to having you join us from New York here in LA, and we're all waiting for Meredithville. Okay? We're about to wrap it up. Do you want to offer some final words and a note of encouragement to our audience here at the SAG Foundation and out there in the universe?
Look at murals. If you haven't seen some of the murals you can find, and I was just thinking also, for some reason, because for one of my clients, which is 24th Street Theater, that's the crosstown one shot bus, which is fabulous. And I go by MacArthur Park every single time, and there's something so crazy and lovely about that park that, and all the, everything. It just is very LA. So there's for me, there's just been such a new burst of energy and excitement about places where people live and spend their time here. And murals, I think, have been sort of the hidden secrets that I barely would see as I would barrel past, before I started walking and taking the bus.
What you lose, it is inconvenient in a way, but what you gain with the cash in your pocket and time and stress-free is so huge. So you just got to kind of get over the psychological aspect of, oh my God, I'm giving up my freedom, and realize you could have so much more.
I think that the fun factor should not be overlooked. I know that money and health and learning about your neighborhood they're all really great things. But for me, I see this as being able to take a little vacation in the middle of my day. It's so funny when we go travel, we're like, of course I'll ride a bus, of course I'll take the subway, of course I'll ride a bike or whatever. But we could give ourselves that gift every single day if we decide to replace one trip with walking or biking or taking transit. It's like going on a ride at Disneyland sometimes, I swear, like being on the Gold Line. It's amazing. And Ciclavia is a great time to get out. The Big Parade is a big urban walk that I help organize. That's coming up in May. It's 3 days in May. Just look for the Big Parade online, Big Parade. LA.com. And then Los Angeles Walks if you're interested in some of the advocacy side of this. And we also have fun as well. And we had a karaoke party where we sang Walking in LA, which was super exciting. So.
Excellent.
As an actor, I think it's important to be connected to the real world, and you get that in public transportation or walking or, on a bike. So I think it's important for that reason. I think it's also important as an actor to keep your life simple so you don't have to make decisions based on commerce. You can make those decisions based on art. And if you're walking or riding the bike or get rid of your car, that makes it easier for you to live in that manner. So those are two things I would say to the many actors that are watching out there. Keep your life simple and keep your contact with the real world.
And my tip, if you're riding a bike, is to you don't need a special outfit. You can dress as you want. You can wear high heels and ride your bike. As
easier.
A tip, it is actually, because if it
easier than
slips,
walking.
your heel gets caught in the pedals. So actually, high heels are very good for men as well. So, and because your foot can't slip off the pedal. So you don't need a special outfit, really. You can dress anywhere you want to. Have deodorant with you, freshen up with powder, have a brush, and I think that's all you need. Just travel light.
Well, thank you very much. Just chatting with these five transportation heroes reminds me that Los Angeles is not just the capital of creativity. It's not just the capital of entertainment. It's not just the capital of geniuses, and it is, but it's also America's capital of active transportation. And so it's been great to be here this evening with you. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists. And thank you very much to the SAG Foundation.
Yes.
And thank you.
So good. Yeah, you can just take the mics and the chairs.
Okay.